All right. We're live. Cool.
Says live on my screen.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah. So we'll be starting in about 2 minutes. We'll just wait till everybody kind of piles in and then we'll begin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go for a bike ride today, Darren?
Yeah, I did. Of
Good.
course. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm getting ready for, my next big trip, and so I put new tires and I got new water bottles, and my bike looks I remember getting my bike on the first day, and it was like spotless.
Sure.
And now I've put it through 2 years of abuse basically. But when he put new tires on it, new water bottles, it looks brand new, like suddenly. Like the frame
That's
and everything is so
that's
you
pretty
wouldn't
good
even know, you know
considering
what I mean? Yeah.
considering how hard you use it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Yep. So I'm pretty excited. Not just for that, but also to get on the road. So,
of course. Yeah.
what about you? Do you go on a ride after work, before work?
I just had my daily commute today. I live
Okay.
about
You
uh,
ride you ride to the shop.
yeah, it's about 5 miles each way.
Oh,
So
okay. That's a good little, yeah.
I think I might survive if I only did that every day because I've got
Yeah.
a good steep hill to climb to get home,
Hmm.
and I could probably have a reasonably healthy constitution just doing that. But I usually get a few, good rides in every week.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, it's 1 minute after 6. We've got a few people on, so yeah. Are you ready to begin? I'm ready, I think.
I'm ready, Darren.
Okay. um, I'll do my little introduction here. For those who don't know, my name is Darren Alf, and I run the website at bicycletouringpro.com. And today I have a special guest, Dwan Shepard, the owner or co-owner. What's the correct?
Oh, mhm.
Okay, of Co-Motion Cycles, which is a handmade bike manufacturer in Eugene, Oregon. And
Say that with a question in your voice.
well, I question it because you're on the call with me. I just want to make sure it's correct. I'm
That's
waiting for
pretty
you to
good.
say that's right or wrong. But yeah, um, CoMotion was founded in 1988, and I know that they're known for making tandem bicycles, touring bikes, and bikes that are kind of in these niches that are ignored by the main bicycle world. Is that correct? The,
That's accurate. Yeah.
accurate. Yeah.
Some of those are pretty arcane little niches.
Yeah. So we'll talk about some of that, I guess, in the future,
Okay.
in some of these future questions. But yeah, the main reason I've invited Dwan to do this is because for the last 2 years I've been using a co-motion bicycle myself on my own bicycle touring adventures, and it's probably the one question I get asked about most is my bicycle. And like I tell people all the time that like for me at least, I think the most important piece of bicycle touring gear that you are going to purchase is your bike. And so I thought, who better to talk about the bike that I currently ride than the owner of the company himself? So that's why Dwan is here today. Um,
I'm gonna have to think real hard to answer those questions.
yeah, well, um, but yeah, like I said, I've been using a co-motion bike for the last 2 years. I went on my last trip. I went through 24 different countries in Europe and Africa on the bicycle, and now I'm leaving in 1 month on another 7-month-long bike tour through Europe and Asia with the same bicycle. So I really love the bike, and hopefully I can answer a bunch of we can answer Dwan and I can answer a bunch of questions not only about the bike
Hmm.
that I'm currently using, but about all of CoMotion's bicycles um, that they make. So yeah, why don't I just get into it, Dwan, and ask you the first question? Yeah. Are you
Okay, sure.
okay? Um,
I'm trying to be ready.
yeah. I guess my first question is, how did CoMotion get started, and how did you get interested in, like, who decides they're going to make a bike company?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know who decides. I think that, like a lot of people who find their calling, it just sort of happens. And the first time I learned to ride a bike when I was 5 years old, I was just, you know, awestruck at that point. And I've always loved bicycles. And so I tinkered with them as a kid, and um, my first real job was in a bicycle shop. And when I was in college, I worked in bike shops. I I stuck with it, and it almost kind of fell in my lap, which is funny because I know some people try so hard to get into this business, but it all kind of comes naturally for me.
Hmm.
I could be more specific.
Yeah, no, I know. But I know the commotion was started in 1988.
Yeah.
How did that happen though?
Well, I had my first experience building frames was I took a frame building class from a builder who was locally known, named Gary Hale, and really, really smart guy. Um, to make a long story short, I wasn't really that interested in building frames. I didn't think I had any sort of affinity for holding a torch or cutting steel tubes. But I was working in a bike shop, and my coworker talked me into taking this class,
Hmm.
or actually talked me into meeting Gary Hale, and I went and met him, and he told me, well, if you pay X number of dollars, I think it was $300 or $400, that I could learn to keep at the end of it. And this was 1983. And I said, well, it sounds great, but I don't have any money, which was always my story. And he said, well, I'll let you pay $50 a month, and you can do it that way. I couldn't turn it down. And I found that it was, really satisfying and enjoyable, and I kind of had a knack for holding a torch and heating metal and making things happen.
Yeah.
And so I built my frame, and he offered me a job working with him, and so I helped him build frames and do the other fabrication stuff that he was doing for 5 years. And at that time, 5 years into it, he was uh, doing other fabrication work for trade show exhibits and in-store displays for companies like Levi's and Adidas and Nike. And he was offered a job by this bigger company that was doing that sort of work. And suddenly he wanted to be done with his lease, and he didn't need his fabrication equipment anymore, so he offered it to me.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I don't have any money. You know how much I make. So I talked to a friend of mine into going in on it with me, and we started, building a few bike frames, doing bike frame repairs, braze-ons, and some other fabrication stuff on the side. And
Hmm.
that was 1988, and that's when we started Commotion.
And that's how it started. Does the name CoMotion come from the fact that there's co-owners there, or no?
No, we built our first tandem frame in early '88, and we were trying to think of a name for the company, and we didn't want to name it Shepard or Boucher. My original partner's name was Butch Boucher. Um, so we thought, well, let's just bring the frame to the house and and it was Butch's house, and have a potluck party and invite all our friends. and have a name the bike party.
Yeah.
And so people wrote words on notepad. We had like little steno pads.
Hmm.
People wrote notes down and came up with all kinds of names that I've since seen on cars from Detroit and computer accessories and just
Yeah.
about everything.
Huh.
Promotion was the name that we settled on.
Okay. Interesting.
And it was going to just be the name of the tandems we made, but we decided to just name our company Commotion Cycles.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's one of the other obvious, I guess, ideas of where that name could come from, because you're known for producing tandem bicycles. That maybe
Yeah.
co-motion. Yeah, it comes from that. What I mentioned that you guys make a number of different types of bicycles, but can you talk more about that? What types exactly do you make?
Well, as you know, we make a lot of touring bikes,
Yeah.
and it still comes as a surprise to people who know us for our tandems. But it's a really solid part of our business, and it's grown. It continues to grow really, really well. Originally when we started out, we made strictly road bikes and road tandems, and we were really focused on road racing and performance. And I think what has driven our development of different bike models is just listening to what people want.
Mm.
And one of the things that got us into making more rugged touring bikes is we had someone come into Commotion and say, well, here's my problem. Why is it that you can put two fully grown people on a tandem bicycle, and that's, 300 plus pounds of people.
Yeah.
And yet on my touring bike, when I put more than 50 pounds on it, it rides terribly and the wheel falls apart and, all the common problems that touring bikes have. And we said, well, gee, we could make you a touring bike essentially like a tandem and make it so that it can carry, as much weight as you can stand to haul around.
Mm.
And that was sort of the precursor to the Americano bike, which was, we just built a few bikes that were sort of like a half tandem, and then we developed it further and put a name on it and made some stock sizes, and that became the Americano.
Huh.
And a lot of times with our different models, they sort of branch out naturally. Like somebody wants a bike like the Americano, but they want it to have 26-inch wheels instead of 700C wheels.
Right.
And so that's essentially the Pangea. And or they think, well, gee, I'm not going to haul 100 pounds of gear on my bike plus myself. That's too much. And, I'm not crossing the continent, but I want a good, tough touring bike. That's basically what the Cascadia is. Oftentimes, we create a model because there's a gap between something we make and something a person imagines, and that's where new models are born. And we do the same thing with tandems and road bikes and all the other stuff we make.
How many models do you currently make right now?
I don't even know. It's too many. It depends on how you count them, because we have, for instance, your bike, the Pangea.
Yeah.
We've got the Pangea, the regular version without S&S couplers. We have the Pangea Copilot that's got S&S couplers. Then we've got the Pangea Roll-Off, which instead of having derailleurs has a roll-off internal 14-speed hub.
Right.
And then there's a Pangea Roll-Off Copilot. So there's one model that becomes a four.
Right. So okay, I see what you.
So we have a lot of things going on like that.
Right. Well, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that makes you guys unique to so many other bike companies is the fact that you do that. You know, that there is not just that, but there's a large amount of custom work that you guys do, right? I mean, not
Yeah,
every
you know,
bike is a stock.
we're kind of in between. You know, we're not just one guy in a garage making,
Yeah,
something you dreamed up or something he dreamed up, but we're putting it out there so that you know what to expect. The specifications are listed, and the pricing is pretty clear. But we offer a lot more options than the average, big bike company.
yeah,
So it's still hand built, and there's a lot of personal touches, but it's like a clear menu of choices and pricing, and we really want things to be logical from start to finish.
hmm. What else besides some of those things that you mentioned, like the S&S couplers, for example? What makes a co-motion bicycle a co-motion bicycle? What makes it totally unique to all the other bikes out there?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. They're really purpose built. And I think that sort of our roots with tandem bikes was a big start to that, because you cannot build a tandem by going to the frame tubing store and ordering a tandem tube set. You have to improvise, and um, you have to really build the thing from the ground up, and you've got to have a good idea what you want to do. And for us, because we have so much experience with that, we not only have a good idea of what we want to do, but you know the designs have developed and grown and improved over the years, because you know we learn what doesn't work, we learn what does work, and we're constantly improving on it.
Yeah.
So we started when we were very, very young. We basically used straight gauge chromoly aircraft tubing, which was what you could do to get long, long tubes that you need to build a tandem frame.
Hmm.
Um, and so a lot of guys do that, and it's fine. But you know, um, as as you get more sophisticated, you figure out what you want, and if you get to a certain size, you can start to ask the bicycle tubing companies to make things for you, because they're going to have minimum quantities, and it costs a lot of money to get special tooling made to make the tubing that you want, especially if it's outside what they normally do.
Yeah.
So we literally started uh, Tange, originally out of Japan, on making tandem length tubes.
Hmm.
And then when they shut their doors, we went to Reynolds of England, which we've done a lot of work with them over the years, and a great company. Um, they had never done a continuous tandem length tube until
Huh.
we ordered. They used to do separate front top tube and rear top tube.
Oh, okay.
But we found you can build a much stronger frame by doing a continuous tube that's pierced by the front seat tube. And now we call it zonally butted, where, most people know what a double butted tube is. I'm trying to get my hands in the
Yeah,
picture.
yeah. You gotta explain this. Yeah.
In the center of a double butted tube, the tube is thin, to save weight. And then at the ends, where it's welded or brazed or lugged or however it's joined, it's thicker for strength.
Right.
And on our zonally butted tubes, we have, basically an asymmetrical long tube, a lot longer than my arms can fit in the screen here, but it's thicker at the head tube, and then there's a thin section from the head tube to near where the front seat tube is. It gets thicker around that seat tube, and then it gets thin again behind the front seat tube, and thicker again at the rear seat tube.
Hmm.
So and the length of the rear top tube on a tandem is always longer than the front because the stem goes backwards. It's attached to the front seat post.
Right.
So whatever the length of the stem is subtracts from the reach for the stoker versus normally your stem length adds to your top tube length.
Hmm. Okay.
So anyway, that's probably more complex than given for
Yeah,
the answer, but
yeah, but that is one of the things I think for so many people that are maybe new to getting bikes, like if you look at all bicycles almost from far away, they all kind of look the same, you know?
yeah.
And like they got a very similar shape and so from what I do, answering people's questions about how to get started in bike touring, like so many people say, you know, I have a mountain bike or I have a road bike that I want to use for a bike tour. Can I use this bike? And I have to, you know, kind of explain that the bikes look very similar, but there's these minute details, like you explained, like the, you know, just the shape of the tubing or, you know, and all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. And that matters, especially when you load your bike with 50 pounds of gear or whatever. But it matters
And the
in,
more time you spend with the bike, the more you know that.
yeah, exactly. And it
Uh,
doesn't just matter in touring though either. I mean, if you're racing, you want a different type of bike than if you're mountain biking or something. So you know, these are the sorts of things that I think a lot of people don't know, but they are kind of basic to buying a new bike. What was I going to say? Uh, some people are asking questions already, and I have kind of my questions that I'm going to ask you first, and then I'll open it up for everybody listening. You can ask a question, and Dwan will answer. One of the questions, though, that was being asked was, how many bicycles do you guys make in like a year? I think that's a good question.
about 1,200.
1,200. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, we have 18 people on our staff, and well, I guess it's 19 now. But there's a little fluctuation throughout the year, but we try to keep it pretty steady, and they'll do anything from 2 to 5 bikes a day, um, and so there's always stuff moving through the shop.
Yeah. How long does it actually take to make one bicycle? I mean, do you make the whole thing in one day, or do you do the frame
No,
and then the
yeah,
paint?
it's a process. Generally, if you call and order a bike, or most likely you go to your dealer, your promotion dealer, and you order a bike, and they help you, with the fitting and place the order with us, and it'll take us about 5 weeks to complete the order.
Hmm.
If it's a custom bike, it may be 1 or 2 weeks longer.
Okay.
We're not one of those companies with long lead times. Um, we we know that everybody wants their bike as soon as they can get it,
Yeah.
and try to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to hit you with the big one now. One of the biggest questions that I get, or maybe objections that I get, I think, when I mention that I'm on a co-motion, is the price.
Mhm.
You know, the co-motion bicycles are more expensive than a lot of other bicycles out there, and what, you know, why is that? And yeah, maybe you can talk about that.
Well, we use really good materials. We use skilled labor. We make everything in Eugene, Oregon. We paint them in our own shop. And the components, we don't skimp on the components. Um, I hear a lot of people saying, well, gee, I can get a good American bike for half that price. But I guarantee you, if you see a bike that's half the price of what we are making, it's got an American sounding name, but it's not an American made bike.
Right.
And I think I would stress that uh, we're not just more expensive because we're American. Our bikes have to be better, and we sell our bikes primarily to people that have had other bikes, and they have tried you know, I don't want to name any brands, but the popular brands that cost a lot less money,
Yeah.
they've tried those bikes. And they come around to us because they need something better. They're sick and tired of stuff that doesn't really work, or doesn't have the ride quality, or it's just missing some element that you know every uh, every logical thought says should be there.
Right.
And so we try to provide that, and we make people happy with it. So I think we're doing things right.
Hmm.
We are not. I talked about the tubing that we design, and it sounds complicated and weird maybe, but there's a reason for all of it. We don't do anything just to be weird. We do it to make the bike a better bike.
Right.
And that includes, making our own dropouts. And when you make the dropouts on the frame, it should never be because you want it to look cool. It should be because you're trying to make it better, to solve a problem. And for instance, on the Pangea and most of our touring models, we have a dropout that orients the disc brake against the chainstay, so that you don't have the disc brake interfering with the placement of your rack,
Right.
Which can be a big problem on a touring bike. And then, another thing that our dropout does is it integrates the disc mount into the dropout itself. So you're not just welding a little piece of steel onto the frame to hold the brake. It's actually part of the dropout, so it's going to be perpendicular to the axle, and it cannot separate from the frame by breaking a simple weld, which is the way most disc dropouts are attached. Just a little welded on tab, and it's relying on the wall of the tube to hold it there. This is why so many bikes have disc brake alignment problems and disc brake noise issues and things like that. But if that's really well supported, the way we do it, part of the dropout, it solves those problems, and it makes the bike tougher and more reliable, and it makes it last for around the world trips, and you can go years on end and not worry about your frame. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to have the lowest price. We're trying to make the best bike.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I didn't know that about the brake alignment and everything. But that I think also going back to is like one of those things that the average person, when they look at a bike, doesn't know that even is important. All that what you just said, most people.
Yeah, we can't. You can't really market that. We could make a big long letter and publish it, and
Yeah, but most people wouldn't care.
But who's going to read that? So
right.
We try just to let our reputation grow by making every bike right, and letting our customers talk about them, and so we've really subscribed to the better mousetrap, let the world beat a path to your door concept.
Right.
And it's worked pretty well. We do a little bit of marketing, but it's tough to afford.
Yeah. But what like when I bought my bike, or I started out on one of these really cheap touring bicycles that you're talking about, made in China and stuff. And,
Sure.
And it got me through my first couple tours. But I think the thing that really turned me on to CoMotion was I went to the Interbike trade show in Las Vegas, and which is like an annual trade show where you can see all the bikes from all the companies basically. And
Right.
It was at that trade show that I saw CoMotion for the first time, and you could see the difference in quality between the bike just looking at them, And I had seen bikes online or whatever, but it's so different to see the bike in person,
Sure. A lot of bikes look good on a website or in a marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that was the thing that really changed my mind, was like, wow, those are good bikes. Like you could see the difference. And so I don't know. That I think that for me was like the initial spark. But you had mentioned also to me, like when I was first getting my Pangea, was that CoMotion or that you and your dealers work especially hard to try to fit people with the fit people so that they get the right bike,
Sure.
right? How
We
exactly
do.
do you do that?
Well, there's kind of some different ways, and I try not to tell people that it's always done the same because we're working with dealers who have many of them have their own fitting systems.
Hmm.
So we will work with whatever fitting system your dealer has, um, but we do have our own system, and I'll tell you how it works. It's basically a simple form. I think there's 16 measurements it calls for, and it's a form that you can fill out with yourself or with a friend, ideally, and it asks for the essential things like your inseam and your height and your weight um, and then we measure a few things to make it to help us really lay out the proportions of the bike, like your shoulder width, the length of your forearm, the length of your femur, um, and we explain how these measurements are taken so that if it's not clear, you can read instructions on how to take those measurements.
Hmm.
And then along with that, and really this is the key, is we ask for measurements from your existing bike if you have one.
Hmm.
And so, we find out what your saddle height is and where your handlebar is and the height relationship between the saddle and the handlebar. Not because we think your bike fits you perfectly, but because we need to know where you've been to help you figure out where to go and to explain,
Right.
what we think ought to be done to improve the fit of your bicycle.
Okay. So
It's
if you have a
amazing how
bike that
many.
you kind of like the feel of, you can say, here are the dimensions of this bike, and I want something similar, or you could say, here's
We
my
have
bike,
we
and
have
it
people
hurts
do
like crazy. Don't give
that.
me anything like this.
Yeah. Well, we've had all of those scenarios, of
Huh.
course, but most of the time people are looking at a new bike because there's something not quite right about the bike they have.
Okay.
And maybe they can't put a finger on it, but if we get good information from that fitting guide, then we can make a good recommendation for them, and um, we can identify the things that are causing problems.
Hmm.
Like if your saddle is 2 inches too high and your handlebar is 2 inches too low, you're going to have, you know, uh, you're going to think all saddles are uncomfortable and all bikes make your neck and your spine hurt.
Right.
But if you put those things in the right place, um, you can be comfortable for much longer, and you can actually have better control of the bike, and you can start to feel like you're part of the bike instead of the bike is something that you have to fight all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and really in developing that fitting guide, what we were trying to do is just take the things that are fairly easy to observe when you're talking to someone in person and making it something that works long distance.
Hmm. Okay.
Like if you came
Um.
to me with your bicycle, I could point out a few things and say, gee, have you thought about moving this a few millimeters this way or that way?
Yeah.
But if those measurements are taken in the form sent in, I can do that long distance.
Huh. Okay. One of the questions that was sent to me in advance for you is also a question that Cody just asked here live, which was, I'll read Cody's question. He says, what happens if someone is abnormally tall or short? How do you make bikes for them? That was the same question I got from Bill, who said, I'm 250 plus pounds, and I'm over 6'4". Do I need a custom bicycle, basically? So those are basically the same questions, I think.
Um, Yeah, Bill probably needs a custom bike, and it kind of for him for a big guy like that. Kind of going back to what I was saying about the Americano, uh, how to build a bike that will handle a lot of weight without breaking a sweat. Basically by using a tandem wheel set and which means a wider rear axle and using larger diameter tubing, you can make a bike for a 240-pound, 6'4" guy deliver the same kind of performance that a 170-pound guy could get on a normal size bike.
Mm.
And it's only fair, um, there's no reason why you can't make a bike for a bigger guy like that perform as well as somebody more average sized.
Okay.
Um,
What
so
about
we do it by
what
scaling
about?
everything up.
Sorry, go ahead. I talked over you. Uh,
Oh no, we do it by scaling everything up,
okay.
and again, because we make tandems, we have tubes that are long enough to do anything. So we're really good at making bikes for bigger people. And we've been at it for over 26 years, so we've got a lot of experience building bikes of all shapes and sizes.
Okay.
Full of all shapes and sizes.
Yeah. I think if it's okay with everyone listening, I'll start answering some of your questions. And is that okay, Dwan? If
Yeah, go ahead.
not answering, but asking some of your questions, you'll answer them. So yeah, I'm going to just read through. Bill just said, Dwan or Darren, would like your recommendation. Wife and I are in early 80s, ride a minimum of 1,000 miles a year, rails to trails, paved trails, from Florida. Don't do steep hills. Wife needs minimum 19 inches step through to access bike seat. I need a twist shift on right hand. I mean, is that the kind of thing that you do regularly? I mean, someone says, they need something like that, and you can work with them to build a bike like that?
Yeah, people tell us what they need, and we tell them what we can do, and we can't do everything.
Yeah.
If we run into something that is not in our, area of expertise, then we'll refer them to, somebody who can.
Okay. Yeah, because Cody asked earlier, he said, do you make custom bikes? And maybe that's what he's asking. Like, I want something crazy. Do you do that? No, is the answer. I mean.
Well, we're not going to make you an Easy Rider, motorcycle replica bicycle or a Dr. Seuss bike, if that's
Yeah.
what you mean by custom.
Yeah.
Most of the custom stuff that we do is basically a custom fitted version of one of our existing models.
Hmm.
So, a guy like I think his name was Bill, the taller guy who's big tall guy. We could make him a custom espresso road bike or a custom Americano touring bike or any number of our models. Whatever appeals to him, we would start with that.
Right. Okay.
And there's basically a set charge for that. I think it's $395 that it adds to the price of the bicycle. So you took the Pangea, which is around $4,000, and you wanted it custom fitted. You need a custom design. It's a small extra charge to get it exactly the way you want it. And if it changes 5 millimeters, doesn't matter. If it's 10 centimeters different from the average, from the stock sizes that we make, same price.
Okay. Paul says, tell us about internal shifting systems and possible STI style shifter for the roll-off. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I don't think there's an STI type shifter for the roll off on the horizon unless it's coming from independent third party manufacturer.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone is working on it, but roll off themselves are not especially enamored with making different kinds of shifters. Um, we started making our own roll off shifter year before last um, because Roll-Off was making a shifter only for an upright type handlebar. And most of our bikes have a drop type handlebar. And we had to make one to get around the curves of the handlebar and to fit onto what's, the most common handlebar diameter, which is 31.8 millimeters now.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, but we're not, an STI style, which means the Shimano road style dual control lever. That's a pretty complex mechanism, and we're not equipped to do that. Even, we've got CNC equipment, but that would be a really big project.
Yeah.
For
Okay. Looks like we got lost our connection for a little bit there, but I think we're coming back.
oh,
Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what happened. Maybe
do I need to restate anything?
I don't know. I think it got recorded. I don't know. It may have just been a Google hiccup or something.
Okay.
Um, Sorry. Let me go back. Um, One of the questions here was about, yeah, so Clint says, Darren, I noticed you did not have a roll-off in your video for your touring bike. Was there a specific reason you chose to go with the classic derailleur in your Pangea? Maybe I can answer this to a certain extent, and then I have a question for you. Traditionally, I think touring bicycles are built so that they can be repaired anywhere in the world. And so, from a classic touring bicycle standpoint, a lot of people choose parts on their bike that are easy to find and replace anywhere in the world. And so, I think, for me at least, that was part of my thinking with my touring bike, was that if I go to South America and the bike, that part of the bike were to break or need repair or something like that, it would be easier to find just a regular chain or a derailleur of some kind that I could then put on the bike and continue on my way. Whereas if I was using the roll-off parts, it might be harder to find. That being said, Dwan might have something different to say about that. So what do you tell people when they ask that question? I mean, I've never used the roll-off
Well,
on
either one is a good choice. The roll-off would argue that no derailleur system is going to last 100,000 miles with virtually no maintenance like their hub. Um, However, you're right. If you did have an issue, um, you're probably not going to be able to fix it yourself, and you would be having to send your wheel if something failed in the hub. You would have to send your wheel to roll off in Germany or to Cycle Monkey in the United States, or there's a few other authorized service centers for them, in other parts of the world. Um, I've met a lot of people that just have fits about derailleurs. They don't like them. They've had trouble with them. Maybe they've broken a derailleur on a tour, or just drop the chain and don't like the way they work. And if that's you, then don't get derailleurs. Get the roll-off, because with the roll-off system, you can choose whatever gear you want to be at any time. If you're stopped, you're coasting, or even if you're pedaling, you can move the shifter, put it into the gear that you want, and go.
yeah.
With the derailleur, you have to always have in mind, if you're going uphill, you have to anticipate and shift beforehand, and maybe soft pedal a little bit, and know only to move the shifter a certain amount, or maybe you'll drop the chain. There's all these things to keep in mind. Um, and if you get along with them and you've lived with them for a long time, great. They work great. And in reality, although the derailleur system looks more complex externally, believe me, the roll-off is far more complex internally.
Hmm.
The beautiful thing is, it's an engineering marvel, and it's made really, really well. Um, so, like I said, they go for 100,000 miles with nothing but oil changes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, to me, I agree with you. I'd rather have something that is externally accessible, that, if I need a new chain, or to replace a derailleur pulley or something, you could do that anywhere in the world. Um, the roll-off, um, you be prepared if you do have something happen, you may have to send the thing off. So, yeah, maybe that means you spend a couple extra days in Lima or
Yeah.
Sydney.
Okay. Another thing, another one of the questions that I received, which is also relevant to my bicycle, is I got the Comotion Pangea with S&S couplers that allows this particular bicycle and several of your bikes to be taken apart and fit inside an airline-friendly suitcase that you can then travel with on an airplane and avoid paying extra fees when you travel with your bicycle. And I think that's an awesome feature. And over the course of my trip last year, the 14-month-long trip through Europe and Africa, I took the bike apart probably, I don't know, half dozen times or so, flying with it, and also just taking it on buses and trains and stuff, where like I was taking a train from Ukraine to Poland, and the conductor said, no bicycles, you can't get on this bike, can't get on the train, there's not enough room, blah, blah, blah. And then, I was trying to explain to him, no, my bicycle splits in half. It's really small, it folds up and it doesn't take up much room. I was trying to explain this in Ukrainian, of course. But
Right.
but when I finally I just took the bike apart in front of him, yeah, and it doesn't take long, just to split the frame in half. Then he was like, oh yeah, you can take it, no problem. So that really, really came in handy during my travels. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you not only do that on your touring bicycles, but on your tandems and other bikes as well, right?
Yeah, I think I met the inventor of that S&S coupling, Steve Smilenick, in, I think, 1994, at the Interbike show that you mentioned before.
Yeah.
And boy, I just thought, this is really cool. And he had testing equipment and demonstrated right there at the show that a bicycle tube, like the top tube from your frame, is stronger with that coupler integrated into it than like a non-coupled Reynolds 531 tube, for example.
Right.
He demonstrated that you can twist the tube, so torsionally, and in tension, so putting an incredible tensile load on it, or a bending load. Um, the tube with the coupler brazed into it is stronger in all three senses. So
Huh.
there's no reason not to do it. And when you, as you know now, when you ride the bike, you can't tell it rides as well or better than the bike without the couplers.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
that was one of my concerns when I got the bike was, especially stepping on it the first time. I was looking down and going, is the whole thing going to break in half? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that was kind of what I thought, but no, it's not like that at all. And but I think that
it's a really beautifully made part, and I've
yeah,
said to many people that but that S&S coupler is the finest bicycle part ever,
mm,
in my book. They
yeah,
never fail. They're always perfect.
that's awesome.
So I
But
think it's a stunning accomplishment.
yeah, the question that I received from Jeremy in advance, he said,
Now you're
he said, can you add S&S couplers after the frame has been finished? Like, can I get the bike without the couplers and then add them later? That was his question.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up on me, so I
Uh-oh.
could not hear that question.
He
If
said,
it was a question.
yeah, he said, can you get a co-motion bicycle and then add S&S couplers later? Did you hear me? Oh no. Can you hear me now, Dwan?
Okay, I'm gonna guess at what you're asking,
Yeah.
because I can't really hear it, but it sounds like someone is asking if you can buy a commotion and add couplers later.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Uh, the answer to that is yes, but it's always best to get it from the ground up, and I'll explain why. We in our we have called our travel bikes with S&S couplers uh, the co-pilot. So you have a Pangea co-pilot,
Hmm.
sort of invoking the idea that you're going to fly with it. Um, and when we build a co-pilot, the way we do it is, for one thing, we design special tubing strictly for incorporating the couplers. So they have a little bit more of a long butted section so that when the coupler is in the tube, it's got butted tube on either side of the coupler. Um, and before we build the frame, we braze the coupler into the tubing. And
Uh-oh. It looks like I lost you.
okay, we're back.
This is terrible. I'm so sorry.
It cut out there for some reason.
Yeah.
But when we are integrating the couplers into the frame, the first thing we do is we put the coupler into the tube. Then we miter the tube, which is the special cuts that are made for one tube to join the next. And then we build the frame. So the coupler is in the frame tube before the frame is built.
Hmm.
That's really the only way to make sure that the alignment of the couplers is perfect.
Okay.
So when you take the frame apart, you unscrew that coupler, it doesn't go sprawling, and make it difficult to handle the frame. It'll line up perfectly every time.
Yeah. And Clint was asking, is there a weight penalty with the couplers? Like, does that add a significant amount of weight to the bike?
They're
Putting
about
those on?
4 ounces each on
Uh,
average. So
okay.
it's small. It's less than a water bottle.
Yeah.
As you know, the convenience of having them far outweighs the small weight difference.
Right. And earlier Bill was asking, like with the Americano, which has 700C wheels on it, or the Divide that has 29-inch, can you put that inside the Copilot case? Does it fit? I mean, because
Yeah.
I know with my Pangea, it's got the smaller 26-inch wheels on it.
Right. Yeah, you need to let a little air out of the tires to get them into the case.
But they do fit.
But yeah, they fit.
Okay.
And bear in mind that our case is flexible, so it can. Although 29-inch wheels are pretty big, the rim size is the same as a 700C rim. Um, and when you deflate the tires, if you fully deflate them, they're under that 26 inches.
Hmm.
But if you leave a little air in, it just pooches out the sides a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Cody said, "Is the fee for taking a bike on a plane really that expensive?" I can probably answer this one. Um, yeah, sometimes no. It depends on what airline you're going with, but some airlines now charge as much as $350 per direction to fly with a bicycle. So if you fly a round trip with your bike on an airline like that, potentially you're paying $700 just to take your bike on the airplane for that one trip. So you having those S&S couplers on your bike potentially save you $700 just on one trip. And if you take multiple trips with your bike, you can save even more.
It's
So
also it's a big convenience to to have something that you can handle just like a regular suitcase instead of a
Right.
giant bike box. Which,
Yeah.
if you're trying to get from the airport to maybe the start of your trip with a giant bike box, good luck finding a taxi to take you somewhere. You're probably having to sit down on the floor in an airport somewhere and assemble your bike, which is,
Yeah.
not a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. Michael was asking about warranties on your bike. Can you talk about that a little bit, or
Uh,
all your bikes?
lifetime warranty to the original owner. And, we
What
really
does that
stand
mean?
by our stuff.
What does that mean? You're talking about the frame of the bike, or what if I get a flat tire? Do I send it to you?
No. uh, yeah, the components, obviously everyone expects a tire to last a certain amount of time. Um, but the components are warranted by the manufacturers. So some components like the S&S couplers or a roll-off hub also have a lifetime warranty, or
Hmm.
Chris King headset. But most things like derailleurs and brakes have a 1 to 2 year warranty,
Okay.
which is reasonable, wear and tear to expect.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're going to implode in 2 years, but you can't expect them to be new after they're 2 years old.
Right. Right. Um, but the warranty itself is for the frame and everything.
So if 20 years from now you have a crack in your frame, and it's not because it was run over by a truck. It's
Yeah.
it's a defect in material or workmanship. Then we will repair or replace your frame.
Hmm. Okay. Um, it's already 7 o'clock here. I know we had some technical difficulties, which took away some of the time.
Well, I can hang out for a little while longer
Okay.
if there are people that
If anyone else has any other questions, there's a chat box. I know you guys typed in a bunch of questions earlier, but when we had that technical difficulty, they all disappeared. So if you have any questions that we haven't answered, type them on in there, and we'll answer them. And if there aren't any questions, then we'll call it a day, I guess. Is there anything else that I feel like I know there's a lot more we could talk about, but what's the
we
most
can do this again sometime if you want.
yeah, well, what's the most popular bike that you have? Like, what's the one that sells the most?
Oh, well, in our tandems, we sell a lot of our periscope tandem, which
What's
is
that? That's
it's a tandem that's designed for parents to ride with their kids.
ah,
And then it's super adjustable, so you can start a kid about 4 years old and keep on adjusting it until the child is as tall as you are.
hmm,
Most kids are too cool to ride with you by that time, but it's designed so that, say, dad and the kid can ride together, or mom and dad can ride together, or mom can ride with the kid with just a few adjustments. And
that's awesome.
so those are really popular, and rental shops also like them. It's
Hmm,
really easy to set people up on and adjust. And then um, we have a brand new tandem model called the Carrera that's, I think we really nailed it as far as what most people are looking for in a tandem. It's got, it's a nice, speedy, fast bike, but it's also touring capable. Um, so it's lighter weight than our traditional uh, Speedster tandem, which was one of our most popular bikes for over 20 years.
hmm,
And it's got brand new tapered carbon fork and some sexy fast wheels, and it's just got a lot of capability, so it's a fun bike.
that's cool.
But we make so many different models. It's hard to Hard to
Yeah.
say what's
Well,
most
what
popular.
about the touring bikes? I mean, I have the CoMotion Pangea, which is more of like a on-road, off-road type of bicycle. But
Yeah.
is that the most popular one, or no? Is the Americano more popular?
Yeah, the Americano and the Cascadia and the Divide are all pretty even right now. The Pangea is actually slightly less popular. I think primarily because um, North Americans really like 700C wheels.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, guys like you that tour internationally know that a 26-inch wheel is a good choice because you can buy that tire anywhere. You can,
Right.
if you're in Ecuador or you know, India, you can buy a 26-inch tire. It might not be a very good one, but it'll fit your rim, and that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Um,
John was saying.
700C is
Oh, go ahead.
700C is really really popular in North America, and it's fairly popular in Europe, but in the southern hemisphere, it's a little tougher.
Yeah. John was saying, what's the basic differences between the various types of touring bikes that you have? There's the Cascadia, the Americano, the Pangea. What's the
Yeah,
difference between all of
part
them?
of it is wheel size, like we were just talking about. If With the 26-inch Pangea, it's easy to make that bike rugged enough for on or off road, virtually any conditions. The Americano is the 700C wheel bike, um, and it's sort of built like a tandem in a sense. We talked about that earlier.
Hmm.
Bike that can handle really big loads. The Divide is sort of derived from both of those. It's a 29er format, so um, it has the bigger rims and it has capacity for really really big tires, and it's designed to tour on virtually any surface. But when you have the bigger hoops, those 29-inch rims, um, to me, if you're going to tour on that, you've got to have the 145 millimeter tandem rear hub, or you're not going to be able to, support a touring load, especially in rough conditions. So that's part of the design of the Divide. The Cascadia is the touring bike that we make that is the answer to people who think our other touring bikes are too much.
Hmm.
Like, oh my God, I'm never going to put 100 pounds of gear on my touring bike.
Yeah.
Why are your bikes so rugged? Isn't it going to be too heavy for me? They worry about stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even though our Americano or Pangea or Divide, they're not heavy bikes at all, but the Cascadia is a little lighter, a little bit smaller diameter tubing, and um, it'll beat the pants off of most of the other touring bikes on the market. So, really nice bike.
Cool.
Um, so that, in a nutshell, is the difference.
Yeah. So let's say someone listening right now and they're interested in buying a CoMotion bike. How do you do that actually? What do you call you
It's
do you
a
call
real
one
barrel
up on
full
the
of
phone
money.
and say, or what? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, probably the easiest thing to do if you don't know who your Commotion dealer is, you should go to our website at commotion.com, and that's co-motion.com. And we have a dealer finder on our website, or if you can't find anyone that way, you can give us a call. We have a toll-free number, and that's all, you can find that anywhere on our website. Um, and we'll help you find a dealer, or we'll help you order a bike from your local bike shop if you don't have a dealer near you.
Okay.
Um, so we are set up to sell through dealers, and we rely on them, and they rely on us to get people set up properly and fitted properly.
Okay. So you go to your dealer, you say, I want a CoMotion bicycle. They'll take your size and stuff, and then they send that information to you. You build the bike. They send the bike to the dealer, and then
Yeah,
the
that way your dealer can assemble it for you, and when you need, a derailleur adjustment, or you want your stem to be a little higher, they'll do that kind of stuff for you.
okay, yeah,
There's a lot of value to bicycle dealers, and just having that person-to-person service, I think, is really, really important.
hmm. What about, because you're in America, in Oregon, what about people who are in Canada or overseas in the United Kingdom or Germany or something? What if they want a bicycle? How does that work?
Well, we have some international dealers. We have a few dealers in Canada. We have some dealers in Europe, and in cases where we cannot establish a way for a bicycle to easily be sold, we will work directly with the customer.
Hmm. Okay. So the first bet in every case, though, is to try to find your closest dealer, essentially. Yeah? You're having a hard time hearing me?
I'm sorry, Darren.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing you very well.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was just saying, yeah, you go to your dealer, basically. Yeah, so like someone saying they want a bike in Australia, and they would want to try to find a dealer in
Yeah,
Australia.
we have dealers in Australia, New Zealand.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's it. I think our questions have kind of come to a close here. If that's all right, Dwan, I'll wrap it up. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everybody.
Okay.
But thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you learned a little something. If there were any questions that maybe we didn't answer during the webinar here that you want answered, or you have a question about co-motion or anything, you can email me, first of all, contact@bicycletouringpro.com. But if you have interest in a co-motion bicycle, be sure to visit the website at comotion.com. It's co and then a dash motion.com. That's the website where you can learn about the bikes, find a local dealer in your area, and a whole lot more. So that's it, I think. Is there anything else that you want to say, Dwan? I don't know if you can hear me. Nope. I think we lost him.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but I get the sense that you're closing things up here.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank everyone. Darren, I want to thank you. This was fun, and if you want to do it again sometime.
Okay. Yeah, we might have to do it again just because of all the technical difficulties. But yeah, thank you, Dwan, and everybody else for tuning in. I will record this and edit it together, or maybe we'll do this again in the future and answer any other questions that we didn't get to tonight. But thank you so much. Again, thanks, Dwan, and everybody.
Thanks, Darren.
Again, comotion.com. Check it out. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night. Thanks for joining us, everybody.